sails in the heart of Beijing. These sails represent thousands of years of interactions across the Taiwan Straits. Our histories are deeply connected. And yet, Taiwan's historical roots often get overlooked or even forgotten, depending on who you ask on the island. So what do we really know about the history of Taiwan? I invited Professor Jeffrey Sachs, one of today's sharpest minds on global conflict and geopolitics, here to the Taiwan Guild Hall. Professor Sachs.
How are you?
Such an honor to meet you in person, finally.
Well, thank you so much. So nice to see you.
So this is the Taiwan Guild House, Guild Hall.
Yeah. Wow. What is the background or history of this?
The background is where, in the past, where students from Taiwan who are entering the Royal Imperial examination, they will be staying here.
Oh, really?
And now this is a museum.
Oh, fantastic.
Where the historical artifacts are on display.
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful.
It's also, I believe this is your first time to be here?
First time in this place, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's also mine.
Okay. Oh, great. Well, happy to visit together with you. That's fantastic.
Let's check out some of the artifacts.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Very beautiful
Let's
place.
go, please.
Great. Thank you.
Professor Sachs is a prominent American economist dedicated to peace and dialogue. I thought it would be valuable to hear his perspective on how a deeper understanding of Taiwan's history might shed light on the current situation across the Taiwan Straits. Have you been to Taiwan?
Yes. Yeah, we were there. I got an award called the Tang Prize, which is from a Taiwanese foundation.
I see. Jeff, this is about the imperial exams and how the central government made sure that talents from the island are also pulled, for the national examination.
Very important.
Yeah. These are
the great tradition, 2,000 years of national exams.
These are the name list of the people who passed this round of examination. And okay, I'm seeing this for the first time. From right to left, that is number one, number
in the ranking
two, in the ranking
the exams.
Yeah, and it goes all the way to 194.
Wow.
And what about the ones with the red dot? I see. These are the people who come from Taiwan. Here is 48, and he comes from Changhua, which is one of
we
the
saw.
We saw and it says it's from Hokkien Province, from Changhua County, Hokkien Province. And here, this one from Hokkien, from Taiwan County. So it's a very clear.
Yeah.
So this would actually be a very interesting opportunity to see. There's the outline of the history of Taiwan. Here you see some dates. You see 610. That's 610 AD.
Yeah.
That's during the Tang and Sui dynasty. It says where the mainland resident starts to cross the sea to migrate to the small islets in between the mainland and Taiwan. Here in the middle of the 12th century, they would already have administrative. And then 1885, Taiwan became a province, the 20th province of China. But actually here in 1335, that's during the Yuan dynasty, there is already an administration in the, here's the mainland and here's Taiwan. In between there are some islets called Penghu. And this says the Yuan government set up a patrol station in Penghu.
Okay.
So that shows, the administration of this part of China dated back much further. I think this you would be very interested in. Are you a lover of maps?
Yeah, I am, actually.
You are?
Oh, yeah. Oh, here's the Ile Formosa.
I think there is a... Here are the earlier ones. Here are the earlier... Oh, it's actually not all in chronological order. So this was from 1648. This was Insula Formosa. This was a Dutch map of the island, which is kind of lying down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever wondered why Taiwan was called Formosa?
It's Hermosa, beautiful.
So the
Beautiful
name
island.
came from the colonizers.
Of course,
Yeah.
doesn't it usually? America came from Amerigo Vespucci in Italy.
Here's the island of Taiwan. Here it's written Taiwan, actually.
Yeah, very interesting.
And it says province the Fukien. Fukien is the southern province, which
Yeah.
is now Hokkien, as we say. And this was 1714. So it's from a French. You see, this was a map, island of Formosa. Of course, the Chinese never recognized
that
this.
name.
What do we see in there?
You see Taiwan there.
Taiwan. Actually, there's one more word. You see, Taiwan Hien.
Hien.
Hien. You know what Hien means?
No.
County.
Okay. Oh, that's Taiwan County there.
That's Taiwan County. It's Changhua. These are all names of places that a lot of it is actually taken from southern China, from Hokkien. And here, if you see, here I see Taiwan Fu. Wow, this is really small. Taiwan Fu.
Yes.
Taiwan Fu is the seat of one of 3 grassroots administration units
Okay.
of the island.
Yeah, very good.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you take time out of your super busy schedule.
It's nice to be together and to have a good talk.
Yeah, we have talked to each other virtually a couple of times, but this is really the first time to meet you in person and in this very special place about a subject that is really important, I think. Just out of curiosity, after this quick tour, and me as a tour guide, I never thought I would be a tour guide. I probably did a very bad job, but out of the bits and pieces that we managed to explore together, what stayed in your mind? What's your takeaway, first impression?
Well, I was very interested to see this historic place where students from Taiwan came to take the imperial exams, so that's an important part of history. And of course, it raises many issues about today as well. So it's a beautifully preserved museum, and it records a very important historical truth about China and its history, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about today and the future.
Important. I mean, if you just look at these artifacts, they're silent. You know, there's nothing super exciting about them. But if you contrast that with what's being said, what's being taught on the island about the history of the island, it's actually quite extraordinary. For instance, the leadership or the authorities in Taiwan actually like the name Formosa for the island. And you know, recently he has just been using the name. And what do you make of that? Because Formosa, for instance, is a name passed down by colonizers of the island, and yet, you know, it seems that it's okay to and even promote it as a name of the place.
It's a little bit strange because it's a 17th century name given by Spanish and Portuguese colonizers who were here briefly. So it's not a reflection of history, but perhaps a little bit of a use or twist of history for political purposes. So I am surprised that that would be a name given, but you know, there's lots of uses of history and misuses of history in political issues, and I suppose that's one of them.
And we actually did a vox pop of people of different ages, mostly young people on the island. We asked the filming crew to ask these people, ordinary people, what they know about the history of Taiwan, what they think, for instance, how many years do they think is the length of the history of Taiwan. Surprisingly, some of them said, well, the history of Taiwan started 400 years ago when the Dutch colonizers came. That's the beginning of Taiwan's history. Of course, some other people say the history of Taiwan spans much longer, dates back much longer than that. And there are others who say, well, it's 400 years, but there are other things which happened before that. So for us, here, knowing what the history is like and seeing all the facts, it's a bit of a chaotic situation. There is a lot of confusion, it seems, about people's understanding about the history.
Again, I would suppose that some of the uses of history are not really about history, they're about current debates. So there are, of course, current debates about the two systems and the status of relations between the mainland and Taiwan. And history gets dragged into that, or people don't know. They are told certain things. This is in any type of situation like this where there is conflict and contestation. History will get used or misused or distorted, and or just not known by people. But it's not generally the right way to answer questions about today and the future.
What do you think is how important is it then to understand our shared history, across the two sides and while trying to make sense of today's situation?
Well, I think it's very clear that there's a shared culture and history of people on Taiwan and people in the mainland. There's no doubt about that. And when we know the modern history of how the Chinese Civil War ended, with one side escaping or fleeing to Taiwan and establishing a government in Taiwan, but declaring that government to be the government of China, and the government of the People's Republic declaring there to be a government of China, of all of China. Both sides actually agreed that there was one China. Yeah. So that wasn't even the issue. The issue was who was going to govern, but the idea that there was mainland and there was Taiwan and some other locations, all part of China, was actually not even debated between the two sides in the aftermath of the Civil War. Both sides claimed that there was one China. The debate was who was ruling China.
Yeah. When you were in Taiwan, what did you sense about the kind of morale understanding of the young people about this, shared history between the two sides? Did you find out about it? Is there something that stayed in your mind? And knowing how the people here on the mainland view this history, is there a discrepancy between the perceptions on both sides, especially among the young people?
I did not do any systematic canvassing of views. I was there to receive an award, which I was most grateful for, and I had the chance to speak with many senior scholars, and the main opportunity was counterparts of scientists and intellectual leaders and leaders of universities. And the main feeling was a feeling of concern and tension and hope for a peaceful resolution of issues. So I wasn't involved either in the politics or in questions of young people because I didn't have much contact. I had contact with senior scholars, with scientists, and so forth. And I would say the overriding view was the hope that the issues that are very much part of the politics will be resolved peacefully. And to my mind, that is the most important single point.
Our understanding, the understanding from the mainland, is that while the mainland, the central government is trying very hard to resolve the conflict peacefully, there has been a systematic effort by authorities in Taiwan to try to reshape the perception of the young people towards their identity. Growingly, they don't want them to identify as Chinese descendant, but identify as Taiwanese. So in the history book, for instance, they've been talking about increasingly Taiwan's history instead of Chinese history. As I said, the 400-year, they don't think the previous interactions with the mainland or being governed by, the central government for millennia, for centuries at least, should not be part of Taiwan's history. And that is why we're paying so much attention to what kind of ideas the authorities are trying to put into the minds of the young people. I know you haven't done any research on this, you cannot corroborate from your end what I'm saying, but this is our understanding.
I think what is true and clear is that this is one civilization with a shared culture and a shared history. And of course, when the Kuomintang left the mainland and went to Taiwan, they carried a huge number of artifacts and cultural treasures, actually. So you visit one of the great museums there of one of the world's great museums of Chinese civilization. That's a museum of Chinese civilization. It's not a museum of the island, it's a museum of Chinese civilization. I take that in a straightforward way, that this is of course, an island and a population, a people, culture that have a shared civilization. History has led to a divergence of politics, a divergence of economic structures to an extent, and it's the challenge today and in the future to resolve those differences which came from the history of the 20th century in a satisfactory way. But to my mind, at least, this is a Chinese civilization, whether you're in Taipei or whether you're in Beijing, this is a shared civilization.
Do you think a better understanding of our shared history or our civilization being a shared one can help reduce tensions between the two sides, or does history sometimes make it harder?
I don't think history by itself solves these problems, because even the knowledge of history, because history gets abused, it gets misused, and the problems are more practical and more recent, actually. And I think that it is a notable point that in 1949 there would not have been a difference of opinion. Is there one China? Both sides would have said, yes, of course there's one China. This was never the debate. The debate was really something else. It was a debate over power and politics. And I think till today, that is the real issue, which is how different systems should operate and relate to each other. It's more a question of politics. Of course, there are social and other issues, but to my mind, this is not really a debate about the long history. It's a debate about circumstances that arose in the 20th century and that are with us in the 21st century.
Going forward, are you optimistic that the two sides can really resolve the issue peacefully, or given what we are seeing, and not just the activities of authorities on the island? Recently, the Liu Xin said something very hostile about the mainland. For instance, he characterized the mainland as hostile external forces already, which raised a lot of alarm here. And then the kind of international situation we're seeing. What is your prediction, if I may use this word, about the situation?
Well, again, I don't want to make predictions, but I do want to say that there can be a peaceful resolution of these issues. One of the most important ways, in my own opinion, is for the United States to stay out of this. What is needed, in my opinion, with all respect as an outsider saying something about this, is prudence and care and caution and mutual respect around this issue, and outside forces like the United States, to my mind, have no role in this. That's my own view. One of the reasons why you find in many places in the world, in Ukraine, for example, or others which entered into hot conflict, you find extreme views is that people think that someone's going to come bail them out or save them or provide the military means. So I think that if Taiwanese leaders understood the United States is not part of this issue, You, Taiwanese leaders and leaders of the People's Republic need to work this out together, and no outside force is going to be providing arms or anything else. I think there'd be a lot more care in this situation. I really dislike the heated rhetoric, frankly. I think it's very dangerous. It ignites emotions that can easily get out of control. And I believe, as history has also shown in recent years, there was the so-called consensus of 1992, in which there was an agreement. We will be mutually respectful, we will be cooperative, we have different systems, but there's one China in this sense. And to my mind, I hope that something like that prevails, because that's good sense, that's peace, that's mutual respect and cooperation. I see no reason why that can't be the outcome. I can only speak as an American on an issue like this, and I do speak as an American on an issue like this, to say in the United States, stop sending armaments to Taiwan. Stay away. Sending armaments does not make Taiwan safe. It raises the dangers of actual conflict. But then again, I said the same thing about U.S. claims about helping Ukraine, when the U.S. said that the U.S. military alliance, NATO, would expand to Ukraine. I said that is a dangerous provocation. That doesn't make Ukraine safer, that makes Ukraine less safe. And I urged the United States not to make such statements. And I told the Ukrainians very clearly, don't listen to the Americans on this. It will get you into trouble. My own view is that the issues across the straits should be resolved by the two sides in peaceful and respectful discussion and negotiation, without the United States providing armaments or having anything to do with this, frankly, because the more the U.S. intrudes, the more dangerous it becomes.
Do you think it is possible, though, given what the authorities have been trying to do to shape the young people's sense of identity in a different way, basically pulling them further and further away from their Chineseness? Given that, situation, how likely is it that we're going to find a peaceful solution where people are willing to sit down and talk and cooperate?
I'm sure that the overwhelming majority of people on both sides of the straits want peace as the number one. China's culture is a culture of peace. China is not a militaristic society and never has been. So the culture, in my mind, and that's a culture on both sides, is a culture of peace. On the island, from what I can see as an outsider that pays attention and takes interest, the politics are divided. There are lots of political leaders in Taiwan who say, tone down the rhetoric, be careful, don't inflame the situation. We can have good relations without name-calling and shouting. And then there are people who take a very extreme view, and I worry about them, because if the view gets too extreme, it will lead to conflict, and that is very dangerous. So to my mind, we should also understand that it's not monolithic in Taiwan, it's not monolithic anywhere. There is a very broad desire for peace and to avoid any kind of conflict. And at the same time, within Taiwan, there are a range of political views, and I hope good sense and moderation prevails. And what worries me, again, in my perspective as a United States citizen, is that the U.S. should not inflame the situation. And every time the United States says, we will defend Taiwan, we will provide armaments, that is not a protection for Taiwan. that is intruding into the internal affairs of China in a way that I believe makes the situation more dangerous, not less dangerous. I'm trying to help other Americans understand that perspective. I have a lot of good evidence for it because the United States stirs up a lot of mess in other parts of the world, and I don't want the United States to stir up a mess in this part of the world.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for your understanding and your genuine efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.